Have a seat. Sooner you sit, the faster we can move forward. All right. Before we move on, I want to start to talk to you about something that's a little bit more. It speaks more to the a little bit to the esoteric, but really it's something that is very practical. Yes, sir.
I had an interesting observation I wanted to share.
You can share it after I talk.
Okay.
Because if I don't finish this, we're going to wind up. I want to talk to you about a concept the Chinese call Shen. Shen means spirit. Now you have to understand that the Chinese systems did not separate mind and body. At least not the way that we do it. They separated the body into various energetic intelligences that co-communicated. So one of the most important aspects of that, the global term was called Shen, but each of your organs has a Shen as well, a spirit. Your willpower resides in your kidneys. They call that the Zhi. Your eternal spirit, the one that leaves the body after you pass on and reincarnates, is called your Hun, or your eternal spirit. The corporeal aspect of yourself, that primal intelligence, was called the Po, and it resided in the lungs. Okay? So each of the organs had a spirit, and all of these energies would communicate and express themselves as certain kinds of qualities and attributes. When we are doing face reading, what we are actually doing is called Shen reading. And one of the things that the heart holds the true Shen, which is your emotional connection, the spirit that inhabits the body, and then it's like light through a prism refracts to these different spirits. The Shen resides in the heart, but it radiates from the eyes. If you've ever met somebody whose eyes just beam, all right, or you talk to somebody and their eyes just light up, what you're seeing is a person shenning in. In other words, more of their spirit. Your spirit is bigger than your body, in case you didn't know. What you're seeing in those moments is more Shen coming into the body, and the body actually heals the more Shen, the more it gets the Shen to inhabit it. When you see trauma victims and their eyes are flat, what you're seeing is someone who's shenning out. The body has become an inhospitable environment. The Shen doesn't want to be there, and so it leaves. Think of it like dissociative identity disorder, right? You ever notice how flat their eyes are? It's because their Shen isn't in their body. And if you ask them, like if you do some of our interventions, like point to where you feel it, they don't point to their body, they point out here. You understand? But if you ever want to see somebody Shen in, go use 3 magic questions on them. Go echo them, and you'll see all of a sudden their eyes will light up. Get them to talk about something they're passionate about. More spirit will flood into the body. When we're doing face reading, what we're doing is chasing Shen. We're evaluating the light coming from your eyes as we're talking to you. And then as we unpack things and talk about things, we poke and we prod to see what brings the Shen in. You understand? And it could be good or bad. If it brings the Shen in, it's good because the body's going to start to go through an evolution or healing process. Right? And I bring that up because Nadine mentioned it. She'd been through face reading, so she'd seen that shenning in. You'll see it in Golden Path. Golden Path is, in Chinese face reading and in Taoist energetics, there's this concept known as ming. Ming literally means destiny. So if you're working as a hypnotist for any length of time, you inevitably get somebody coming in and says, I just want to know what my mission in this life is. I want to know what I'm here for. What am I supposed to be doing? That's called, in Taoist energetics, your golden path. The reason you incarnated and took on this body and this lifestyle. And when you are on your golden path, you get more fully in Shen. You guys wonder why I can teach for hours and hours and hours on end. Why all of you are in here. Because I'm on my path. Because I'm on my path, I just turned level 53 in April. Right? What's that? Yeah. So, EverQuester right here. But people think I'm much younger, right? Because more of my Shen is in my body. And because I'm clearing up my stuff, my body becomes a more and more hospitable place. And when your Shen is in your body, you get younger. You get healed. Your Shen is what we call inherently negentropic. It is organizational. It raises your body up. Well, you know what entropy is, right? Well, negentropy is the movement towards order rather than towards chaos or a less organized state. When the Shen is in the body starts to heal. Okay? So as a face reader, when I unpack a marking on your face, okay, and the mark goes away, and I'm watching how her eyes light up. Her eyes are really bright right now, right? Right? She's got good Shen, right? Some people not so much, but that's what we look at. If we say something and they spark, even if it's a moment of anger, we've actually provoked something that we can now, as we reframe it, as we vent that emotional charge, and they gain a new perspective on it, more Shen will come in the body. You understand? So I need to point that out to you. Is that how many noticed that when you pointed out something like grief or sadness, they started to tear up? Anybody notice? Right? Just pointing out the feature, boom, triggers it. I saw a couple of eyes ordering up really quick. That's, once you're certified as a face reader, it gets even faster. You can just look at something. What happened when you were 5? Blah, meltdown, right? But I just wanted to put that out there for you. In your notes also, there's a chart that divides. Let's just cover this real quick so you guys can play with this. If you go to... This is the age map. We won't talk about this. This particular map right here, I think it's the 4th diagram. Some people were asking about this. The right side of your body is your public persona. The left side of your body is your private persona. So when you look at somebody, people tend to be right-eye dominant, so we look at their right side through our right eye. And so we only see what they want to show us. If you want to read somebody's private life, if you want to read what they're like when nobody's looking, you use your left eye, you look at their left side of their face. Right? There's actually an app, I think it was only available on Android, it was called Facer. And what it would do, it would allow you to take a selfie, and it would actually cut your face in half and superimpose the right side on the left side, so you could see what you looked like with a perfectly symmetrical face. Right? Nobody's face is symmetrical. But, interestingly, from an attraction perspective, the more facial symmetry you have, the more attractive you're perceived as being. I think it was called Facer. I don't even know if it's around anymore.
I think it's Apple.
Oh, is it Apple?
Yep.
Okay.
I think there's one called Symmetry now as well.
Symmetry? Okay. Well, again, if you can, I don't want you to waste time downloading it now, but if you want to check that out, if you just see, like, if you superimpose two right halves of your face together, you look like a very different person. Where'd the microphone go? Pass the microphone around. Is this useful?
Yes.
Okay.
So I heard from several people and just wanted to ask you that the public and private is switched for men versus women. Is that true?
Some things are. I was taught that this is pretty universal. Okay. Certain schools of energetics, what I was taught, they would transpose right and left sides. I just teach what I was taught, and that's what I go by until I discover something different, right? And again, I as much as I know, I consider myself a baby at this. I really do. But this is just like many of the other disciplines that we teach. In this field especially, a little bit of knowledge goes a long way. I can, like, TJ wanted to test me last year. There was this super powerful waiter at TGI Fridays. This guy was like a force of nature when it came to serving clients. And the guy would literally, like, I would drop a fork, I would blink, and there was a fork there. As he's flowing by, he was just that good. And TJ, well, can you read him? And I did an entire face reading in like 3 minutes while we called him over to get a drink order or something, with some pretense to get him to the table because he was in constant motion. He was just that good. So there's a lot you can get very, very quickly from people. Like, he's a thinker and then a decision maker. Like, he'll think about it, and then once he makes a decision, boom, it's done, right? Oh, you're all doomed. Anyway, no, I'm teasing. I'm trying to find somebody who's a little bit more. You're kind of a go. You're such a tone too. You're a go with the flow kind of guy. You'll kind of see where the group wants to go and then kind of go along rather than have to make a decision for yourself, right? You have courtesan's eyebrows. It's a good thing, actually. If you've ever seen the classic Chinese geisha with the big moon-shaped eyebrows, right? There's two, actually, these are actually, when they're natural this way, the Chinese consider these to be a very, very attractive person because this is someone who's very charming, very diplomatic, is able to deal very, very well with difficult people. It's the perfect person you would want, as a mate or a partner or a confidant, what have you. But what a lot of the courtesans used to do in the court is they would actually shave their real eyebrows and draw in these, and so and they call that courtesan's eyebrows. I forget what the actual name, but when they're natural like this, you tend to be very attractive to the opposite sex. You know how to talk to people and things like that. People who draw these in or paint these in, they tend to be a little bit more tricky. They use the way they have feminine wiles, right? They shave to hide the temper that they have. Right? So, and I may have the term wrong, but you're in that ballpark, Lotta. So, on the good side. But I know you. I know how tricky you are. So, okay. So when we look now, and if you see somebody who's got a deeper, like we talked about with some people, they have a line here is disappointment. We haven't talked about it yet. Right? When the line comes down from the alanesi this way, this is actually a very good line to have. This is called a purpose line. Okay? This is a line that indicates that you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing. When you look at it from right side to left side, he's actually more on track in his private life than he is in his public life. Right? He's more satisfied with when he's home doing his own thing versus his professional world. You're kind of the inverse. Your job is actually, you're much more on track with your job when you'd rather, so stand there going, huh? Right? You're doing, no, I'm teasing. But if you feel, he's got a really strong liver. Like he could actually do substance abuse. I can't. It would kill me before I ever got addicted. Because I have very thin eyebrows. I have a lot of strong wood energy, which is hidden, but my eyebrows like want to leave town every time I look at beer. So, but he has a lot. I mean, and feel how he's a very strong liver energy. He also doesn't like to be told what to do. Right. So if you come at him, ask him for help. Don't order him around, because he likes to be the hero. He likes to help people. Right? Yes?
So I just wanted to say all these things you're saying. So I took David's course.
Hold on a second. Where's the microphone? Where did it go now? I put it over here probably. Yeah. I wish I had a mic runner, Seth. All right.
Yeah, so I just want to say I took your face reading course. I don't know how many years it was, but here he did one. It was a 3-day course. It was awesome. He gave a lot of credit to Lillian. And I was like, oh, so be wise, learn from the teachers that taught the teachers. He did a course in San Diego where she came in and she was awesome, but he taught a 3rd day, and Lillian is awesome, but the way he wrapped it all together on the 3rd day was amazing. So I just want to say, like, the science is good, but everyone here hearing it from him where he, pulls in the hypnotherapy as well is amazing. So everything he's saying, you really can't get that from anyone else, even his teacher. But she's awesome. But
She
it's
is.
just, I don't know. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. Your check's in the mail. All right, we'll just have Seth run the mics. Okay, so I wanted to just cover the right and left sides. There's a lot more we could say about it, but for right now, when you want to start looking at how they've marked, if they're deeper on the right than on the left, it's something that they're showing, it's a face they're showing to the public versus something they're keeping private. Okay? So let's go back to our emotional map. By the way, this is the age map. If you look, I think this is Yeah. Yeah, so it starts for women on the left side, I think. I always get that confused. But it starts on the left side. It goes down to about the age 7 on the ear. Then it starts on the opposite ear, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, up to 14. Then it jumps over to the center line. This area here we talked about earlier was called the river of life. Okay? So when you're looking at the markings on people's faces, where they have marked shows what age that issue took place. I see you like that idea. Right? The only thing you have to be cognizant of is that this is Chinese rates. So you have to add a year. Or, is it add or subtract a year for Western, Jack? You add a year. You add a year. So just to make it, but it's the same markings, right? So a lot of times you'll see lines that come across here. Like you see how it goes 15, 16, and then it jumps to 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 20. It zigzags this way. So when you see people with these lines across, when they go all the way across, these are critical periods of their life, critical issues that they've resolved. And approximately where they are on the age map tells you when the issue took place. Right? If you see lines that go halfway and stop and then break and maybe start again or just go halfway, these are things they're still working on. These are things they're still working on.
David,
Yes?
I have a question. Remember when Lillian was saying these lines are also related to previous generations.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet.
So how do
It's
those...
not the lines that are related to previous generations, it's the shape of the skull.
Oh, I thought it was the lines. That's
No,
what I
it's not.
thought.
It's the shape of the skull. We'll get to
Okay.
it. Okay? All right. So when you have wrinkles going across, if they're full, if they go all the way across, they're usually something that you've worked through. Now, many times when you unpack that wrinkle and you resolve and reframe it, the wrinkle goes away completely. Right? Sometimes when you unpack some of these lines that go across and you get some kind of a lesson from it or something, sometimes those lines go away completely. All right? So be aware of that. Let's see. So yeah, so you can see based on this map, you got up to 100, at least 100 years old. Right? So living to 100 wasn't uncommon apparently in China even then. Okay? So, but TJ wants my attention. Yes?
Just a quick hack to remember which side to start counting on, because women are always right.
I was wondering if that was true or not. Women are always right. So right side for women, left side for men. This is one of those times where it's reversed. Right side women start on the right, men start on the left. So one for men is here, one for women is here. And then everything else is just reversed. Okay? So I probably use this of all the different charts, and there's even a chart for all the moles, where all the moles go and stuff like that. It's in Lillian's book if you can get it. This is the one I use the least, but this also tends to be the one when I actually point to a feature and say what happened when you were 5, that's the one that just sparks them. So it's useful, right? And now when you start, if we have time to break up and now you see a marking, and it's almost, anytime, a trauma marking is always a horizontal marking. A trauma marking is always horizontal. An emotion marking will be straight or diagonal. You notice that most of these lines have a diagonal to them, right? It's because they're primarily the consequence of various types of emotions. But when you have a trauma is almost always like a cut or a horizontal line. Okay? Or as close to horizontal as you can get. Right? And it'll cut across. Right? And a trauma, as we define it, is any perceived violation of your physical or emotional boundaries. Right? And an important word in that is perceived. Most of us as adults don't think anything could be traumatic about getting your toy taken away when you're 5 years old. But ask the 5-year-old. Right? That loss of autonomy, that lack of choice, that inability to to make a difference, that's overwhelming to a 5-year-old in some cases, and they'll mark. That's why when you regress to cause, you find a lot of times when you're dealing with somebody who's gone through divorce after divorce, they're standing at they're 5 years old, standing in the living room watching mom and dad argue, or they're in their room hearing the argument. Right? Doesn't seem like such a big deal. Or many times when you regress to cause, they're just alone in their bedroom at night and no one's around. Right? And the adult's thinking, how could that possibly be an issue? Well, it's not about the adult. It's about who you were at the moment. And you encoded that trauma. Right? We'll talk about trauma encoding tomorrow during the post-conference because using vibrational regression techniques, it's not necessary to have the person relive the experience over and over again. All you have to isolate is what we call the moment of encoding. And you don't even need to have them go through the entire experience. You just have to find the moment of encoding and stop there, and you can resolve it without lots of relive, although sometimes you need to go old school. So I still teach old school regression because there ain't no school like old school, and nothing will prepare you for when the proverbial fecal matter hits the rotating oscillator than old school regression. Okay? So let's go back to our emotional map real quick, and we're going to circle around and do these the 3 zones, which I think is really cool. All right, so we've covered skepticism, joy, sadness, sorrow, grief, humor, bitterness, fear. Do you have any questions about those before we move on?
There is a line
Who was right here?
There is a line we identify that goes horizontal between the lower lip and the chin, kind of here in some people, and I don't see it on the map. Just if you can just tell us what that might be.
It's a Jing mark. The river of life, you have the Sea of Yang, Sea of Yin. When you have a line that cuts across here, is you got somebody who is actually taking care of too many people. We call this a retirement line. This usually shows up in the 50s or 60s, about the time we start to retire. But if it shows up earlier, it's generally an indication that you're caregiving too much. And you're draining your internal resource. When we talk about Jing, what we're actually talking about, right with you, when we talk about Jing, what we're actually talking about is the inherent life force that you have, or the solid fuel. If you think about like a log has a potential energy in it that when you actually combust the fire, or you light it on fire, burns and releases the energy. That's kind of like what Jing is like. Jing is like the solid fuel that runs your body, that's converted into qi and has various attributes stored in it. When this line starts to appear, you're literally, as I call it, you're spending your future on somebody's present. You're giving too much of yourself to everyone else, and you're not taking care, you're not nurturing yourself. So that line will show up there. Okay? I see it a lot in professional caregivers, hospice people especially, or home health aides, where they're just giving and giving and giving, and that line just shows up. If you actually start being a little bit more selfish, a little bit more pampering, and when I say selfish and pampering, I mean to the point where you feel guilty about it, that you can start to rebuild some of that. Okay? Someone had a question. Hold on. I love your questions, but again, we got a ton of material, so I'll take you as far as we can.
Do you know what a punch is? Like when you're going to drill something, you punch it. What if the wrinkle is like a deep set, not like a line, but like a deep set indentation?
How did they get it?
That's what I'm curious about.
If they're born with it, it's probably Jing related, and it's probably ancestral.
When they make facial expressions, it gets deeper, and like when emotions change, it
Oh,
gets
well,
bigger.
we're going to spend a lot of time on the markings up here.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll end with that. Hold on, got 2 more questions, or 3 actually. There's a lady in the corner, this lady, and this lady. Is this fun? Is this, you guys? Okay. Good stuff.
Can you explain just a little more with the ages?
The ages?
I just don't understand because the bottom half of the face has a lot older ages.
Yeah.
But what if they have the marking down there from something young?
Oh, that's a very, from something young?
Yeah.
That gets into what we call the Ming section, destiny. Let's say you're 30 years old, right, which is markings here, but you got something here. Something's waiting for you when you hit 40. Now, depending on what you do, now it's important. Depending on what you do between here and here will determine how you process that event. Whether it's a full-blown trauma or it's just a proverbial fart in the breeze. right?
What's it called?
What? It's a Jing marker. It's kind of a predictive thing. It tells you that there's an event that's going to happen. You may not know what it is, but you know it's going to be an issue. You understand? Like when I look at somebody's ear and I say something happened when you were 5, I know something happened. I don't know what, right? But it was significant, right? So when you have a line at an age marking that you're not at yet, something's waiting for you. And what you do between now and then will determine how you go through that. And if you do the right things, that line may even disappear. Right? Yes.
Does piercing your ears make a difference?
Yes.
I thought so.
Yeah. Piercing ears will change things. How they'll change them, I can't predict. I know in the martial arts that I study, we look for people with pierced ears. Because in the martial arts I study, 1 pressure point causes pain, 2 pressure points cause the pain to meet between the 2 points, 3 can cause somebody to pass out. And if they've got a post through their ear, that's 1 point down I don't need to hit. Right?
Okay, question about pain versus grief.
I can't see. I hear the voice. But there you are.
Okay.
Did
Someone
you say
pointed
pain
out,
versus grief?
Yes.
Okay.
They were looking at the lines, said there was grief there, and then you just said that certain lines are horizontal, the trauma versus emotion. And I actually have some lines here that are like plaid.
Plaid. Oh my God, she's going plaid.
So I would imagine that's both emotional and trauma together.
It could be, but when you're talking specifically about pain, these are diagonal lines that extend from the outer canthus in this way, along the eye. They're kind of parallel but diagonal with the eye. So you see that? They start here and they go this way. Right? Contrast that with what is commonly referred to as a disempowerment line. I'm just jumping to it because I want you to understand the difference. Pain starts at the outer canthus and orbits this way. Disempowerment starts from the inner canthus and comes down the nose. Okay? And if you see abuse victims, domestic abuse, or people with overbearing parents and things like that, you will see lines that look like somebody took an X-Acto knife and just scored the inside. When you see that, the behavior that that's connected with is appeasement. The lines from the inner canthus down the nose. Lillian calls them disempowerment lines. I call them appeasement lines. And because the behavior connected to that is, at some point in your life, or several times in your life, you stood your ground, you said your piece, and the pushback from it was so traumatic that you just became an appeaser. You just wanted to placate people. You can also call them placation lines. These are people that are just, they'll go with the flow, they don't want to make any waves. If they sense any form of resistance or derision to theirs, they'll just appease you. These are the people who back down instantly. They'll tend to score right in here. If they're having any form of physical pain, they'll mark this way. This way. From the outer canthus along the eyes. Okay? I don't make a distinction between physical and emotional pain. Most of these are emotions, but I see a lot of people in physical pain or who are dealing with chronic pain, they tend to develop these. Microphone? Hey.
All those lines around the mouth, the upper lines and the lower lines, I also often see them in women who are postmenopausal as
Yes.
a hormonal issue going on with
Yep.
them. So I'm not quite sure that it is necessarily an over-nurturing as much as a hormonal
Remember what I
thing.
said earlier, these lines start to appear naturally around the ages of 50 and 60, around retirement age, when does menopause hit us?
Exactly,
Right?
but
if
could
it-
it
but if
just
it-
be hormonal?
It could be. It could be, absolutely. Right? But if it's showing up earlier, ask about their lifestyle. Are they caregiving? Are they taking care of too many people? Which is more often than not the case. At the moment I say that, you just see the eyes light up and they break out. But yeah, this line is a natural occurrence around the time we hit retirement, which for perimenopausal, postmenopausal, like that. Yes.
Where does anger show up?
Anger everywhere. No. Anger shows up here. We'll talk about that one.
Regarding the
Hold on, wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. Remember. Oh, yeah, we got to do. By the way, you guys want some free stuff?
Regarding the postmenopausal thing is around that time that most women have finished taking care of children and maybe starting taking care of grandchildren and older parents. So there's a lot of nurturance that's happening for at that age. So maybe that will lead to the development of the lines or showing them.
And again, the line shows up because there isn't as much as there used to be. Your job as a therapist is to determine where it's going and how to fix it, right? So, some of you may have noticed that the past couple of days, they've been raffling off these really cool booklets, right? How many have seen these being raffled off? How many people who do not know what this is? Okay, let me explain to you. This is my entire live event calendar for 2019. We also have the 2020 calendar that's also available. And every current product that I have for sale. If you turn to the back of the book, which you can't because you don't have one, but there's a page here called the Mondo Supremo I Want It All package. Okay? And what this is if you were to purchase this particular training bonus package, what it includes is any 2 live training events in my 2020 or 2019 calendar. Regular price would be about $39.94. It would also include 2 of my full-length video training courses valued at $14.97 or less. You get your choice of any 2 of them. You get your choice of any 2 live trainings. And your choice of any 5 smaller video courses available through my website, valued at $97 or less. If you were to go to my website and try to purchase it, it would actually be even more than I'm about to tell you about because we've raised the prices and this is the old price list. But the total retail value would be $7,473. If you were to actually buy this training package, which is still a hell of a deal, like a huge deal, it would only be $27.94. You'd save well over $4,679. Now, I'm not telling you that because I want you to buy one. I'm telling you that so you know what you're going to do how many people would be interested in coming to see me live for 3 or 4 days? I'm not asking you to buy anything. Okay, I just want to know because 2 people are going to walk away with one of these today. Okay, we're going to raffle 2 of these Mondo Supremo I Want It All training packages off. All you got to do is put your name in a hat. We're going to draw it at the end of today's session, and 2 winners will get to come to any 2 live events in my 2019-2020 calendar year. You'll get your choice of any 2 full-length video courses valued at $14.97 or less, and your choice of any 5 smaller video products that we have as part of your package. The nice thing about the Mondo Supremo package is that it doesn't expire once you have it. In other words, once you buy it, if it takes you 2 years to get to a live event, your seat is still waiting for you when you take advantage of it. If something comes up at the last minute, that you say you're coming, and something comes up at the last minute and you can't get there, all you do is pick up the phone or send us an email. We move you to another training. You have those seats whenever you want them until you use them. Okay? The other thing that happens is because we're doing a lot more international events, the price point of the training you want to go to no longer matters. So if you want to say you want to come to my 5-day real-world hypnosis training next September, 5-day regression certification, rapid trauma resolution strategies, it's $19.50 at the door. You pick up the phone or send Stephanie an email. She says, hey, I want to come to regression. Okay, VIP seat. Go right to the head of the line. Let's say if you qualify for it, you want to come to my 8-day NLP class, which is $3,400. You pick up the phone, you call Stephanie, or you send her an email, say, hey, I've taken one of the prereqs. I'd like to come to the 8-day NLP training. Okay, there's your seat. You have it. The price points don't, if you want to come to when I do my trainings out in the UK, everything is in pounds, right? Significantly higher than here in the US. Doesn't matter. You just pick up the phone, you send an email, you walk right in, okay? You don't even have to know which ones you want to take. As long as you're in the system, those slots are available for whatever you want to use them for. There will be a couple of things, certain courses that have prereqs. So you have to satisfy the prereq, but other than that, everything's open for you. So 2 people are going to walk away with this today. So what I need you to do is take out a piece of paper. If you have one of those little red notebooks, you can use that. If not, take out a piece of paper, write down your name, your email, and your phone number, and then pass them to the center aisle. My helpers will come around and collect them, and at the end of the class, before we go, we're going to raffle off 2 of these, and we're also going to we're going to raffle off 3 T-shirts, the HTL T-shirts that you see, right? And I'm thinking about making it like anybody who has a T-shirt and they show it when they come to a training gets 10% off. Right.
Here it is.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead and do that real quick. And thanks, Seth, for I forget who it was that reminded me, but I would have forgotten to do it. Yeah. Right. I get so focused on delivering content that sometimes I forget to do the business side.
Still works out.
Yeah. And by the way, we officially end at what? 1:50? 11:50. And if what's that? Okay. So if you need to go, if you want to go eat lunch, if you want to go do the lunch thing and stuff, thank you for coming and sharing with us. If you want to stay longer and do more face reading, I'll stay as long as people want to stay and I don't get kicked out. Okay?
One request. Well, you can show up at the last minute. We will be a lot happier if you try to give 2 weeks' notice.
Most of the people show up at the last minute. And Stephanie's scrambling to get more Kit Kats and everything else. So.
That's why we want notes.
Yeah. But don't let Seth scare you. We love you. Let's hurry up. Come on. I want to teach. All right. All right. So retirement lines happen. You'll also see the official over-nurturing line, but I see this line a lot in people who are just drained from helping everybody else. Actual over-nurturing lines, according to Lillian, are these little vertical lines right above the lips here. Now, in terms of Chinese medicine and your organs, your large intestine actually circles your mouth. So if they have like a white line around these lips, that's usually somebody who's got some bowel issues going on, whether they know it or not. Okay? So over-nurturing are vertical lines above. Bitterness lines, I see this a lot in people with chronic illness like cancer and stuff like that. A lot of bitterness, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. Okay? But it's usually not new stuff. This is old stuff. That's the one thing I want to really want to point out, that most of the stuff you're dealing with here didn't happen yesterday. It's accumulation of the same emotional energy or toxic emotionality that's built up and marked or burned out the Jing in those areas. Okay? Purpose lines. These are lines that everybody wants to strive for. These lines start from the ala nasi and they draw down to about the corner of the mouth. These are good lines to have. I know most of us are trying to get rid of those motherfuckers, right? But the Chinese consider this a very, very good thing. This shows that you're actually on your path, that you're moving towards your mission in this life, and you're on a path. Okay? So if you see somebody and look at their face, and only their right side is showing, this is somebody who may be doing what they love to do professionally, but their home life isn't quite what they want it to be. And if it's the reverse, then they may have a very satisfying home life, but they're stuck in a job they hate. Okay? Private side is left side, public side is right side. So when we want to look at somebody's personal or private side, we use our left eye to look at their left side, right? This one people asked about earlier on. These little lines by this. There we go. These little lines right here look like gills. We call these auditory intuition lines. These are people who have a naturally good bullshit detector, right? They can just listen to people and they know exactly what the subtext is or whether they're being truthful or not, right? Many of you have it because of what you do, right? You can listen to people and you know they're saying one thing but they mean something else. That's what auditory intuition, and you follow that and you tend to find the stuff. Okay? So this is a very, very useful useful trait to have. However, it's most often derived from growing up in a somewhat hostile environment in terms of your household, where you actually always had to be paying attention and being careful what you say and understanding how to read people through their tone of voice and things like that. So there tends to be a little bit of hypervigilance that goes with this. Okay? Traumatic early on, useful if you learn how to do that. Another thing is these people are have a tendency to dehydration, so they need to keep their fluids up a little bit, right? Okay. We talked about pain already. Oh, the line on the earlobe. This is an interesting one. This one is more of has more of a health aspect to it. This is usually someone who has blood. I have it. So, see the lines? These are blood pressure irregularities. The psychological tendency with that is usually heart stuff or a tendency to overreact. Like somebody jumps out at boo and it would normally startle the average person. They have like a hissy fit and break down pissing themselves. They kind of blow everything out of proportion. They have a really exaggerated response, which is me, by the way. I'm showing you all my foibles, right? And if you saw me yesterday on adrenaline, Red Bull, and 50 minutes of time, you saw what that looked like. All right, but these are just lines in the earlobe. What are you doing? Of course you did. Okay. All right. Okay. So those are last. This is the one where you're going to see this a lot. When you see someone who's got a line that goes from here up, this is called a transformation line. This is somebody who's had some kind of epiphany, usually of a spiritual nature, right? If you ever see the Dalai Lama when he's being the Dalai Lama, like in front of a group and being all spiritual, he's like little Buddha wings, right? And then when he's like just being the normal dude, like the diplomat or whatever, he's not quite there, right? So it's kind of weird. He's got a very open third eye, don't get me wrong, but when you see people with lines like this, these are people who've gone through some form of spiritual awakening. You know, they've had an epiphany of some kind. It usually follows a long, dark night of the soul. Like they've gone through this hellacious, period of their life and emerged transformed as a result of it, right? And we have those. We call these critical transitions. They usually happen around the decade marks in our life, 30s, 40s, 50s, so on. Okay? And then finally, this is one you really want to pay attention to. This area in Chinese medicine is called the seat of the stamp. Now, seat of the stamp. Now, in ancient China, the emperor, they had this thing called a chop. You guys know what a chop is? It's like a big stamp, like the official seal or the seal, Great Seal of the United States or whatever. Every diplomat would have a chop. Every royal house would have a chop, and the emperor's was like massive. Right? And the emperor's throne was raised so he could actually look out over the balcony and see the entire city. And this chop was right in front of him. So this is that area. This area is very much related to the masculine upbringing that you've had, how you've related to the masculine energy in your life. When it's very open, like this gentleman's was very open, he had a long-term positive experience with a male, and his relationship to power and corporate structure was very positive. He's very open, a lot of space here. What you'll see with a lot of people is they have a single marking right down the middle. Okay? What you're seeing is what they call a suspended needle. What that is that these people, at some point in their life, expressed their energy, expressed their power, and there was some kind of pushback. Usually from the paternal side, but whoever took the masculine role in that role, it could be two females. Whoever took that, it could be the mom, but she was the more dominant one, right? Whoever took on the more masculine role, they'll mark here, and it's usually a sign of anger towards that energy, or towards that particular parent or authority figure. But the behavior that it generates is that these people are actually holding back their power. They're far more powerful than they're allowing themselves to express. And depending on how deep and how wide that marking is, it will hold them back later in life. You'll get clients who say, I feel like I'm just being held back, like there's something just keeping me from moving forward. And they got this big-ass mark right here, right? Unpack it, right? And as soon as these people start unpacking this mark, they start becoming more successful. Does that make sense? Okay, so single line. When it's bigger, we call it suspended sword. Okay, let's go do our raffle. Okay, so are these the things? I know I'm kind of open looping you, but so here's the deal. I'm going to do the raffles. We got one more? Okay. Anybody else? No last minute ones. Okay. So for those of you who want to stay and go further, I'm happy to do that. If you want to go and do lunch, go with my blessings. Thank you all. Okay. I feel like the great Karnak whenever I do this. The answer is Swiss cheese. No. Alt Nathaniels, come on down. Congratulations, Senora. Go see Stephanie and make sure that you give her your information so she can put you in the database. What's that? Somebody said wait?
No, I said sweet.
Sweet, yeah. All right, let's see what we got here. Anna Ray, come on down. Congratulations. All right, same for you. Go see Stephanie. Give that to her. Tell her you're a Mondo winner. All right, first T-shirt. Bula, would you stand up and model the beautiful T-shirt, please?
Well, it would be nice if it was more sexy.
Yeah. This is the one you voted on. This is my banner. Eduardo, stand up. So what I'm going to do is anybody who has a T-shirt from now on, if you call up and say you have a T-shirt and you wear it to the first day of a training, you're going to get 10% off admission to your, so we have them for sale. Micah Lambert, come on down. Give this to Stephanie. Let her know you need a T-shirt. She will give you the size. Okay, we have a full run of sizes. Afka. Congratulations. Same for you. Give this to Stephanie. Let her know what size T-shirt you need. Rasputin. No. Austin Illickson. Come on down. All right. Congratulations, sir. Same thing goes to you. Give that to Stephanie. She'll get you your size. All right. It is officially lunchtime. For those of you who need to go to lunch, go for it. For those of you who want to stay for a little bit and learn more, I'm happy to stay around. Okay? You're welcome. Okay, so. Yeah? Yeah?
I don't know.
I know. Oh, okay. All right.
I was going to say I was just shocked at how
fast it happened? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's and some and another is the one is like the hair like goes down like this. So it's like some.
We call those mad scientist eyebrows. They're very smart people. Usually, a sign of extreme intelligence.
Oh, so it's not a longevity or something. It's just. Like
no, it's usually a sign that they've got a really strong liver energy, and a lot of their energy's in their brain. So you'll see they're like Albert Einstein eyebrows, right? They're just very smart, very intelligent. Mr. Fix-It, their brains are going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Yeah, they're often hard to relate to because they talk in language we don't understand.
question for
Yeah.
you about disempowerment. I've
Yeah.
noticed a lot of people on the autism scale tend to have really strong.
I can't speak to that because I've never seen that. Haven't worked with enough autism patients to see that movement.
Okay.
But there may be something neurological going on there that brings that out. I can't speak to it. I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. Oh.
This is who you're sending it to, ma'am. My hairdresser.
Yeah.
When I give her this, she will just be so ecstatic. It will be amazing.
There you go.
So wonderful.
Thank you.
Is
sir.
there a way of determining how profound the PTSD issue from my flooding from 2 years ago has affected my overall presentation?
No, you've covered it. But you do have some sorrow that you're dealing with that you haven't fully resolved yet. There may be some. We didn't get to cover lost love too much, but there's probably some things that were very important to you, that some activities or some people that you can't do anymore, and that's marking you as a lost love. I didn't get a chance to talk about that, but that's usually what that line means. It doesn't necessarily mean a person. It means some activity or some element of your life that was very, very much a part of your reason for getting up in the morning has been cut off from you, and you're not able to do it anymore. It could be a person, but a lot of times it's an activity. Like if you grew up with horses and you love riding horses and you married a partner who was allergic to them and you couldn't get anywhere near them and didn't want you riding horses and you gave up riding horses, you would mark like this.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
Right? But you'll probably have. How's your blood sugar?
Blood sugar is high average.
Because you're marking here that usually indicates blood sugar or pancreas issues.
Okay.
So you might want to have that looked at. Okay?
Would you also take a look, please? That would be interesting, if you have time.
What do you want to know?
What strikes you first? What do you see?
You're good with money.
Really?
Yeah. You may not have any right now, but you have a little bit of a money bag there, so you actually can manage it. You're better at taking financial risks than you are physical risks. You're a very extrapolative thinker, and you're actually kind of okay with the women, too. You do all right. Right? You can tell by his hairline. See this M-shaped hairline? It's analogous to a woman's widow's peak. Usually indicates a high level of charisma and fairly successful with the opposite sex.
Analogous to what?
Charisma, a widow's peak. You might want to take it easy a little bit. You're dark under the eyes, so that might be something that to do with your kidneys, right? You got a lot of Shen, which is good. Right? So that's what I see right off the top of my head.
Thank you so much, David.
Mm-hmm. Are your ancestors from a tropical environment or a very hot or arid environment?
Yeah, my father comes from Africa.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's in your nose.
Really?
Mm-hmm. When they have very, very flat, large nostrils, it usually indicates a warm tropical climate where the air has to be cooled before it enters. When they have very long noses, it's usually someone from a very cold climate where the air has to be warmed as it goes in.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
What would you see in my face?
Definitely need to work on getting your public life, your professional life on track. Let's see. You are a bit of a mad scientist. You are a very, very smart guy. You get things amazingly quick. Many times people don't understand what you're talking about because you're so smart. It's from his eyebrows. It's like, see how thick and bushy these eyebrows are? Those are Einstein eyebrows. Those are Einstein eyebrows. He's got amazing ears, but he had some shit happen. What happened when you were about between 7 and 8, or 9 and 7 years old?
I really couldn't tell you.
See this marking right here?
A lot of my age, when I was young, I have it marked out of my mind.
Ah, well, there you go right there. He's got some blood pressure stuff going on. He's got auditory intuition. He's got a real good bullshit detector.
I was wondering about that. I was seeing that, but I wasn't sure if it was the same.
He's got some of the, hold on, can you move for a second? The bitterness lines are a little bit here, so there's some stuff there that he's kind of holding on to that he needs to get rid of. He's pretty data-driven, actually. You can always tell by the hairline and how flat the forehead is. It's not completely flat, but he's very data-oriented. Yeah, that's about what I got. And you don't have any blood sugar issues, do you?
Don't think so. See, I've
See,
had
the-
cancer 5 times.
Okay, right. So you might want to have your blood pressure or your blood sugar looked at. You're not real deep here, but you've got some horizontal lines across your spleen and pancreas area. So I would have that checked. It may not show pathologically medically yet, but there's something there that could be on the horizon. But other than that, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Reset jaw, is there any significance to it?
Reset jaw.
Like when it's like back?
Is it from surgery or from?
No.
Okay. You like your way. You like to get your way. Trust. If not, you've been holding it back. But the narrower jaws. Let me look at my business. I have to check my notes. Hold on a second. Come on, where are you? Here we go. All right, maybe. All right, I don't have my notes, but anyway, when you see this jaw now, whether she's expressing it or not, I don't know. But if you see how big this is somebody who has a lot of will, right? And they like to get their way. They're not somebody who's just going to be a blowdown. Does that make sense? Sometimes this manifests as very dictatorial. Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes this manifests as very dictatorial behavior, or very hedonistic behavior.
Like this, right?
Yeah. Well, the narrower chin has something, but I'm not recalling. That's why I wanted to look at my notes, but it's on my other computer. Can you take your glasses off for me? Okay. So she's very much an entrepreneur. All right. See how the nose extends away from the face? Mm-hmm. This is somebody who's got a pioneer's nose, right? So these people tend to not. They want to blaze their own trail, right? You see these lines here? These are lost love lines. Okay, there was something in her, something or a set of somethings in her life. Usually not always as someone, but there was an activity or a set of activities that was such a part of your reason for getting up in the morning.
Activities, I didn't think of it that way.
Right? It's not always a person. The things that you love to do that for some reason you can no longer do or not allowed to do or whatever, and you're carrying that marking. So you need to go back and start finding a way to do it.
Awesome.
And those lines will go away.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, who's next? Okay, you got some fear you need to work on? Okay.
See it in her face. She's showing it.
Well, when she smiled, she dimpled up right down here, right? Okay, it's all right. She likes to get her way too. All right, she's got a nice strong jaw. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Well, see, we didn't do the face reading for business stuff yet.
Oh yeah, do that.
But I don't know how long you guys want to stay. But she's one of the things that you can tell about people is their comfort with taking risks by how big their ear is relative to their head. So when you've got somebody if you look at how big her ear is relative to this, that's a big ear. So she's got a long life ahead of her. But no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We'll talk about earlobes in a minute. But if you look at her ear, you see how big it is up here at the top? This is somebody who can tolerate financial or physical risks much better than she can. I'm sorry, not financial risks. Mental or financial risks better than physical risks. Physical risk taking is seen in the middle section of the ear. So these are people who might be extreme athletes or what have you. They're much more comfortable taking those kinds of risks. Then you're a Martian. See here, even here, Kaylee, her ear relative to her face is actually quite big. It's a little above average, or right. It's a good average. When you look at the earlobes, let me see someone who's got connected earlobes. No, the further your family is away from you, the better you like it. You can always. Okay, yeah, Betty's got great earlobes for this. When you look at somebody's earlobes, the way the earlobe attaches to the face or the head tells you how how important family is to them. They're very connected to their family. Now that connection could be negative. They could fucking drive her crazy, or she may be someone who's so family oriented that the idea of they'd move right next door to her grandparents or whatever. That kind of connection. People who have a little bit more, you're actually kind of close.
Small ears.
Really small ears. These are people who are not. They're not good at just taking any risk. It has to be a very calculated, thought out risk. Yours are a little bit more separated. Kaylee's are a little bit. She has a little bit more lobe here. Yeah, right. These are people again who family's not as, if there's a great job on the other side of the country, they're going to go. Whereas the person who's got that earlobe, they say, nah, it's great, but I can't be that far away from my family. Right. So that's some of the things you want to look at. When the ears are I have ears like this, right? Like Dumbo ears, right? The space that they jut out from the head indicates how open they are to hearing certain things. And it's in an inverse relationship. Like interestingly, if you look at Christine's, see how close to her face her ears are? She actually listens to things people tell her. Right? Someone like me, I only hear what I want to hear. Right? Selective listener. So the closer the ears are to the face or to the head, the more they hear everything. And not just cherry picking what suits their personal reality at the moment. Right? So, anything else? What?
It was a line, I think. Yeah.
There's always a line.
All of us.
All right. So for you, she tends to be a little bit on the impatient side in her professional life. She's actually a little bit more easygoing and indecisive in private. Right? If you look at her eyebrows, she has half an eyebrow here that goes up into a point, but this one is very long on the side. This is her personal life. So she likes to make she tends to want to let other people, she probably has a little bit of decision fatigue. Like she makes so many decisions in her personal life or public life that when she gets alone and she just wants somebody else to do the driving for a while, right? But you see how she doesn't have a lot of energy for a lot of people in her private life or public life, right? So watch her gallbladder. Gallbladder is the organ that keeps score. So you're prone to resenting people for pissing you off. You keep scores, right? But you see how long it is here?
Yeah.
Right? So she has actually in her personal life, her private life, she has a lot more time for friends and things like that. So you're welcome. Is that accurate?
I actually went and had a beauty thing done, and they zapped my eyebrow.
Oh, is that what happened?
So
you should have said that.
That eyebrow was artificially affected.
And did it change anything? And did it change how you behaved at all?
No, it was just.
Okay, so I take it back then. Okay, this is why it's important to know. So this is accurate then.
Yes.
All right. So this is actually she's much more easygoing then. She tends to want to how other people make the decisions. But when I see those short eyebrows, because I have it kind of, I guess I have to color them in so people can see them. But yeah, she got a good jaw. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I'm wrong, tell me because it's not an exact science, right? What do you want? You got a big ass dent right here. We need to focus on it.
Yeah.
Well, you see this brow bone? This is somebody who's got a lot of extra wood energy. They don't like to be told what to do. They tend to even if they're not athletes, they could be.
Wow.
They like to be the hero many times. If you tell him to do something, he's likely to say fuck you. But if you demonstrate that you need help, he's more likely to carry your bags up to your room for you because you obviously needed the help. So if you want to manipulate him, just let him be your knight in shining armor.
And he must listen to a lot of things.
He's a very good listener.
Is
Very good
close
listener. See how close set his ears are? And look, he can take some risks compared to the rest of his head. It's a good size. But when you see those smaller ears, and there's a few of you out there, you're more of a calculated risk taker.
Are you a calculated risk taker too?
I have relatively big ears, but I've become very much I'm willing to take more risks than the average person. I didn't think that was true growing up because I'm very financially security oriented. But when I teach people about my meetup model and how I went about building my business, and I tell them what they need to do, the average person lasts about 3 months doing it, and then they quit. Right? And I just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. So there are certain things that I just know is right, and it'll pay off eventually, and I'll take that risk. I'll invest the cash. A lot of people come up to me, and again, I don't want to be egocentric or anything, but a lot of people come up to me and they say, how do you find time to do all these things? Where do you get all this information? And the simple truth is I have what I have because I'm willing to do more than most people are willing to do. I will invest more, I will travel more, I will shovel through shit more, I will, and there's nothing that I do, I believe, that you can't do. It's what you're willing to do to get it that's important. That's why I tell all my students, for everything you get from me, you're always going to pay twice. The first payment is the money. That's the easy payment, because you can always make more money. It's the second payment that people don't make. That payment is time, energy, effort to actually get off your butts, do the work, and do the drills and get the skills. The first payment's the easy one, but it's superficial because it just gives you access to the information. If you do nothing with the information, you never make that second payment, you don't own it. And so as soon as the next shiny new toy comes along, you're off. Watching it. It's the second payment that gives you a skill set and ability that will serve you wherever you go, that will never leave you, and will serve you anytime you choose to use it. Make the second payment, right? He's got a little bit, he's actually pretty balanced in his personal and private life in terms of purpose. Are you married?
No.
No? Ladies, he's a big kisser.
They told me that. You're looking at 74 years of life here.
Yeah? Yeah. We didn't cover this one, but you see how she's got two lines here? This is somebody who manifests a lot of impatience. She doesn't have a lot of patience for certain things, most things, in fact.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Now, when you see 3 lines, what you've got is somebody who's mastered their temper. This is usually temper as well. Like, yeah, don't piss her off. She'll go after your kneecaps or something. Right? Based on what I'm seeing here, you have some disappointment lines here, so you're harboring and holding on to some disappointments that you've had that you probably need to work on getting rid of. You're a little bit more established in your private life than in your professional life, but you're still pretty on track here. I mean, relatively, you're marked on both, but you're deeper on your left side. So that tells me that your personal life's a little bit more gratifying than this side, even though both are very good. Look at those ears. Oh my God, you're going to outlive me.
She can hear things, and
She's got strong auditory intuition. Yes. She can tell when people are bullshitting her.
Yes.
Right?
I do pediatric nurse triage on the phone every weekend.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
She's got her eyebrows. This is a woman you don't want to tangle with. She's like a genius in the making.
I'm going to talk to my ex.
You see the eyebrow hair? See how they stick up?
Yeah.
And they're very bushy. Do you tweeze or anything?
Nothing.
Okay. When the eyebrows are very stiff and they go up, one of the things that happens is it tends to show that a high level of self-esteem. Like you'll literally see people when you're doing a session with them and like their self-esteem goes up, their eyebrows go. And when they get depressed, they go.
So is this in her private life versus her public life?
Well, it's in both.
Yeah, but I see more sticking up.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I do, but I'm not really talking about that. But when you ever seen Albert Einstein's eyebrows? How they just.
Yeah.
Right? These are people who have huge amounts of cognitive liver chi. She's got them. They're not quite Einstein level, but you see how they're just very all over. There's a lot of energy and fire energy up there that shows. So she's extremely smart. Sometimes she's too smart for the people in the room.
Wait till I talk to my son.
Yeah. Were you ever find yourself explaining something and you knew exactly what you were talking about, but nobody else had a clue?
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
in English, ma.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? That's the behavior.
No humor line.
Not a big one that I see, but that doesn't.
I have humor.
Doesn't just because you don't have the marking doesn't mean you don't have a good sense of humor.
I don't have to.
It's not. It's not an absolute. This is the whole thing. Chinese medicine is not about absolutes. It's about relatives. The more relatives you have, the more absolute shit gets. But thank you. All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We have to make you guys eat. Mr. Shen showed up and said that we.
All right. By the way, for those of you who want to get certified in face reading, at the back of your manuals, we're doing our first face reading, 3-day face reading certification in January 2020. If you're interested, talk to Stephanie. She'll set you guys up with a special deal.